Jamie of Pandora Astrology here in Berkeley, California, along with.
Hey guys, it's Julia Mikos and I'm in San Francisco.
And today we want to talk with you about Jupiter sextile Neptune, which is happening this year, beginning in February of 2020 and proceeding for most of the year. It's going to be a really helpful aspect, I think, considering that, of course, you probably know about Saturn conjunct Pluto, which happened in January. Oh, but also, kind of set the tone for the year. And Jupiter's going to be dancing with Pluto this year and in a conjunction. So that'll bring its own ups and downs. And then Jupiter's going to meet up with Saturn at the end of the year. And but in the meanwhile, this Jupiter sextile Neptune should bring some really nice feels. So Jupiter is traveling along through the sign of Capricorn right here in a sextile. It's shown like that in the middle of the wheel with Neptune, which is in its own sign of Pisces. And these two planets actually have quite a bit of alignment from a traditional standpoint. We'll talk about that. And I'm going to set this chart to move by weeks. You'll see that this begins on February 20th of 2020, and it's going to finish later in the year. And I'm going to just let this run so that you can see it move through time. And while I'm doing that, Julia, I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are about the traditional astrology connections between Jupiter and Neptune and how those might, help this transit to feel pretty good.
Hmm. Yeah, well, Jupiter is a planet that represents religion. Sagittarius, which is the sign which it's strong in, being a religious sign, a sign that has to deal with a lot about beliefs. And in traditional astrology, actually, Jupiter had rulership not only of Sagittarius but also Pisces. So Jupiter had
Exactly.
two sides. It had the religious orthodox side, and then it had the more mystical side.
Yes.
But now, as modern astrologers, we give the mysticism to Neptune.
Mm.
Um, so it's interesting. I think that even if you're going back and thinking of some of those traditional associations, this is a very mystical combination.
Yeah.
And one which has a lot to do with the higher mind, not the mind that's just focused on the mundane things in your life, like the bills you have to pay and 2 + 2 = 4, but your higher mind that's just a lot more expansive, that extends past the physical realm,
Yeah,
into
thinking
the
about
more
the big
metaphysical
picture.
realm. What's that?
Thinking about the big picture and so forth.
Exactly. It's a very super big picture oriented combination, definitely.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is Jupiter being in the sign of its fall in Capricorn, which means that it has a little bit of trouble in the sign. Not that it's necessarily any weaker, but it needs to do some adjustments to kind of make it work for it a little bit better. It's actually Capricorn is very practical. So
Oh,
that's
yes.
kind of interesting to throw in this very airy fairy, mystical, higher minded combo that at the same time, practicality in that Capricorn is going to be what sort of like manifests and makes this combination work.
Yeah, where it grounds, you might say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that Jupiter in Capricorn has ambitions for all of us and is
Hmm.
really ready to help those of us who are engaged in the pursuit of long term goals to grow and manifest those goals this year
Yeah.
during its passage through Capricorn. And that's really, really nice.
Yeah.
So if you're growing a business, or moving on upward in your career, in pursuit of something, something bigger, this is really a good year for that process to unfold, and for you to expand in that way. And I think what this combination is saying is that Neptune can help that. Neptune, with its processes around imagination, around fantasy, even, and around um, I almost want to. Every time I talk about Neptune, I want to spout these new age words. I was going to say, like, casting an aura of the mystical. So, I mean, because Neptune is the fairy glamour, right? Like, and thinking of, what was it on True Blood, maybe? There's fairies in the later seasons of True Blood. And they look pretty nifty until you see them as they really are, which is like, skank. And Neptune is all about, the illusion, right?
Mm,
But that's because Neptune taps into the ideal that is so perfect and beautiful that to try to manifest it in the world would seem to sully it, right? It would
yeah.
seem to be like, taking like this fairy dust and trying to make it into like clunky bricks or something.
Mm,
But I think that this combination between Neptune and Jupiter can get away with grounding some of those high flown mystical ideals into something real, which is so fine that it's actually a fit repository for or example of those ideals.
yeah.
So, and you know me, Julia, I'm always the one to put a positive spin on stuff. Probably it's my Pisces rising that wants to do that.
Mm.
Um,
Bring
and
your
so,
Jupiter close to your sun.
yeah. So, we should probably bear in mind that when Jupiter and Neptune get together, it can be really easy to have these giant blind spots, to become so caught up in the rapture that you forget, that everything has its flaws. So, when you're getting in touch with those ideals and you're rose tinting your world, it's important to remember, what will it take for this thing to be grounded in reality, um, and can it bear that? Does it have the strength for that? Or is it so very gossamer and delicate that grounding it in reality is just not going to happen? In which case, maybe it should stay in the realm of dreams.
Mm, yeah. It's a good year for really giving your vision as broad a scope as you can, and then also, trying to kind of channel that scope into some practical action.
I think one of the things that I like best about Jupiter and Neptune getting together in a harmonious connection of any kind, whether it's a sextile or a trine, is the way that it just speaks to these, I gotta call it like higher ethics and moral values. It's like it takes, because Jupiter is the god of ethics.
Yeah,
And because it's about religion, usually in the organized religion sense, as you mentioned, Julia, that's usually got a value system that's embedded in it. Ethics and morals, religions have helped cultures to develop rules of how to live. You know, and that's often enforced religiously, right?
yeah,
But Neptune is kind of transcends that and taps into our primal human compassion, our empathy, our capacity to feel for and with others, and lets that be the guide. So while from the realm of Jupiter, we might have gotten things like the golden rule, do unto others as you would have others do unto you, and that's a great rule. From Neptune, we might get another rule, which is more like, do unto others as they would have you do unto them.
yeah, yeah. Build your ethics around something other than your ego.
Yeah, yeah. So I think what I really like about Jupiter sextile Neptune is that I think that it really calls forth the best in us, our spiritual value system, and the ways that it can align with any religious ethics that we may have received, as a child or developed in ourselves as an adult, perhaps in our relationship with our religion, and weaves it all together into a coherent whole where you can feel really good about your choices because you know that they're rooted in something both real world in terms of religion, but also something eternal
Hmm.
based on your spirituality. And I really like that. Any other thoughts, Julia?
No, I think we covered it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. We certainly enjoyed making it for you. You can find more great stuff like this on our YouTube channel, Pandora Astrology, in our February 2020 playlist. And you can also find your horoscope, and I do recommend that you go check that out in our horoscopes playlist on YouTube, also on our horoscopes page at pandoraastrology.com. And by the way, on pandoraastrology.com, you might not know this, but in the blog there are tons of free articles about all kinds of astrological topics. So if you like to learn, you can learn a lot over there. And we'll see you around the cosmos. Bye.
Bye bye.